Hello and welcome to The Big Fight. Now, if you've been seeing the headlines, they've all been about Vyapan and more of that, and for various very justified reasons. But if you look at some of the factors that lay behind that particular scam and others, there's a lot to do with the education system and the way it's happening. And if you see what's really exercising hundreds and thousands of people across the country right now, it's that very big problem. How do I get the cutoffs to go to college? And if I am achieving the cutoff, am I the right person to be in that college? And a larger question, what are we doing with our higher education system? Are we turning out people who are just drones designed to be getting high percentage marks to be able to qualify for those cutoffs? Or are we actually producing a range of people, range of qualified, talented people who will be really powerful assets to the nation and in the workforce? And that, I think, is a really big question which is not getting the full attention that it deserves. And so we have assembled some of the finest minds in education to join us in the big fight to try and understand what the present problem is and to try and find a solution. What can we do going forward? And let me start off by welcoming onto the program Professor J.S. Rajput, former director of NCERT. It's great to have you with us. Dr. Annie Koshi, principal, St. Mary's School. We will be asking you whether you're telling all your students, get those marks, don't worry about anything else. Ashok Agarwal, senior lawyer and education activist who feels that those cutoffs are valid because it removes subjectivity. Dr. Kavita Sharma, who's the president of the South Asian University and ex-principal of Hindu College.
That's
so
right.
as a former Stephanian, I will no doubt have stones hurled at me for calling you onto the panel, but let me be fair out here.
Not at
So
all.
it's a great pleasure to have you with us. Vineet Gupta is the MD of Jamboree Education, but is also the co-founder of Ashoka University. Joining us from Pune is Vidya Yeravekar, who's the principal director of Symbiosis. We're about to be joined by Mohandas Pai as well from Bangalore. And last but by no means least, Sohail Seth, a managing partner counselor, just joining us from Kolkata. Sohail, you are here on the show despite the fact that you never actually got any education. What do you say about that?
There's a difference between education and knowledge. I worry about people who have it in education who only need to anchor news programs. We've got knowledge. That's why we are changing the country.
All right, let's get on with it directly. Professor Rajput, if you look at what is happening in this country today, you're having students after student, year after year after year, from class 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's a machine which is designed to do just one thing, get that 97% or 98% that you need to get into the colleges. Are we producing drones at the end of this entire process?
No, this situation has not developed in 1 or 2 years. It has gradually developed after 1990 onwards, because all our all our focus shifts to marks. Everything else has been relegated to secondary position. And then there was a committee in 1990, Ashfal committee, on how to reduce the curriculum load. Now they made certain recommendations, and then there was tremendous pressure on the schools, on the boards, CBSE, from the government, that more and more marks should be awarded. You know, in certain states, in 2012, in one of the elections, the state government.
What you're saying is it's a vicious cycle.
The state government issued instructions and nobody should fail. Our evaluation systems are faulty, they need to be relooked into.
So it's a vicious circle, isn't it, Dr. Koshi? I mean, as I said, your students, you must be looking at them and saying, you've somehow got to get those marks if you want to go to a university. A good university, you need to get those cut-off marks. Or if you can afford it, you'll go abroad, which is also not necessarily the right thing to do.
There's this great need of certification at the end of schooling. And, you know, where is education and where is certification? I think a good school will look to give their children an education in the true sense of the word. And I think that will get the marks. But I have a big problem with the kind of assessment and evaluation and the marks that we're getting. Professor Rajput has just talked about it, and I'm sure as we go on, we will talk about it.
Yeah, because theoretically, I agree with you. Theoretically, if you have a good education, you should get the marks. But that's not the way it's happening here. To get what you need to do to get those 97, 98%.
Because it's a content-based examination, and education is not knowledge-based, but it's got a skill-based, it's a holistic. I mean, education looks to give a human being, okay, a citizen that is aware and participative and critical. But that's not what you're testing, because you are trying to test to get into college. But I'm afraid that what you get from marks is not what you get in college also.
The sort of people who are getting 97, 98%, are they necessarily the brightest of the bright?
They're not.
They're not the brightest.
I'll tell you, because at one time I did a little bit of activism. I founded the Parents Forum for Meaningful Education and filed a couple of PILs in the High Court on this. See, what happens is that they have, the kind of question paper they have is really like one word, one sentence. They barely write 100, 150 words. So there is no testing of your comprehension, of the ability to write or to build up an argument. So there is no analysis that comes forth. The second thing is that they prepare a marking scheme, which I used to call a kunji. So you can give it to anybody, and they just go down the list, and if you have written that, they just keep tick marking.
So you're saying that if you could be getting those 98, 99%, but you're not necessarily particularly...
No, because if you know
you're
how
not
to crack
necessarily the brightest, you just need to know how to crack the exam.
You know how to crack the system, and all schools teach you how to crack the system.
You know what happens in the coaching institutions for IIT? Drill and minimum time. If you can reduce it by 3 seconds, you are in. If you cannot, if you take 3 seconds extra, you are out. So this is all tick mark.
Shiv Khera joining us, author, motivational speaker. Shiv, when you're looking at what's happening with this race for marks, does it cause you concern, or at the end of the day, are there some objective criteria that are required?
Well, first of all, the cutoff and the process of admission really comes down to a point of demand and supply. And if you look at the demand and supply, there's so many bright students who are not able to get admissions at many, many good schools. That is one major reason, and I think that is letting down our youth today badly by not having enough institutions.
So you need more institutions.
One is more, and number two is the wrong people get an admission and the right people don't. What for? Because many states allow fudging. Look at what's going on right now. People who are fudging, they get grades and 98, 99 and 100%, and people who are actually equivalent to that level, they've been deprived. So you see, this is a tremendous disservice to our country, literally terrorizing our citizens. I think this is ridiculous.
Okay. Ashok Agarwal, you feel that you need a subjective criteria like the cutoffs?
No, you see, it is really a vicious system, and it is not necessarily that one who gets a higher marks is really brilliant child. It is otherwise also, he can be brilliant, he cannot be. But question is, what is the alternative? If we go for alternative, then it will become very subjective, and then all types of problem will come. Is it my relative, then money part, this part, this part? How you will select? The issue is that how you can select a really brilliant person or a eligible person or a deserving person.
Okay.
That is.
Let me throw that to Suhail. Suhail, so the point being made is that, look, it's all very well to say that these high cutoffs aren't necessarily producing the best of kids or getting them into college, but if you do anything else, and there's subjectivity which comes into it, and then you could have corruption and scams and nepotism and all of those things, as we've seen quite often in the past.
I think there are 4 basic problems that afflict us today. One is there is rampant corruption in the entire education business in many, many states, in many quarters. You have people who are setting up these institutes without any verification, no certification. You've seen the case recently of IIPM, and IIPM is only one of the many that has been accused of allegedly giving out stuff, degrees, diplomas, when they weren't supposed to. Number 2, there aren't enough institutions for our people. Number 3, there is a complete lack, and which is why I'm delighted at Ashoka University having been born, because there's a complete lack of liberal arts education in this country. We are creating cookie cutters. We're creating people who study by rote, who have to study by rote because they need those marks in order to get to colleges where they need more marks, and then they come out and join some BPO. Why on earth are we the world's soft power in terms of software,
but
can't create an Apple or a Google? These things
I
need to
agree
be
with
asked by
everything you
someone.
said, but answer the point that Ashok Agarwal just made.
You know, how do you create a system of getting into college? There are only 2 ways. Either you've got to know the education minister, or some other politician or the principal, or you've got to get marks. Now, what we've decided is we will create a meritocracy based on marks. Those marks keep on getting added up. I mean, how on earth do so many people get 100 on 100 in everything? And yet, we don't produce one Einstein. So, there is an illogicality.
Einstein would have never got 100 on 100. Einstein did really, really badly in all of his marks, by the way.
This is my point.
Have ended up
This is
pretty
the point
badly
that
in school.
But Vikram,
So
this is the
even your
point that I
marks weren't
began
that
with.
great, I
And
hear.
it's not facetious. No. We are not creating, to my mind, a knowledge pool. We are creating an education pool in which everyone is swimming with no direction and no destination.
Okay,
We are enabling our people to drown rather than to swim towards some focused goal. That needs course correction.
Fair enough. So we've got you. Vidya, let me turn to you next.
So I don't believe that marks is the only criteria to get students in. Someone just said that critical thinking, trying to analyze situations. Now these are important elements, for students, for us to judge students. And therefore we don't lay emphasis just on the 10th or 12th marks, but we also have group discussions, we have a personal interview, we have a writing ability test which we've included since the last 2 years, because even in personal interviews someone might just speak very confidently, or especially students who come from the north, and I must say specifically students who come from Delhi are excellent speakers, but someone down south may not just be able to express, but his writing ability skills would be excellent. We have students who've got in their 90s in 12th standard but haven't got through this examination, our entrance exam and the personal interview and writing ability test. So why don't they get through? Simply because they cannot perform when it comes to interviewing or when it comes to speaking or writing. And I think you need a comprehensive analysis. Someone also spoke about liberal arts, and I think the whole undergraduate system should be converted into a liberal arts education.
So let me just turn to, just on that note, let me turn to Vineet Gupta, because obviously Vineet, now when you were setting up something like Ashoka, again one of liberal arts, but also you said that you were going to try and use different criteria, so you are not necessarily going just for people who've scored, but for the best candidates.
Right. So I agree. I think when we are evaluating students who are admitted to Ashoka, we are looking at marks, of course, but we are also looking at what students have done outside the classroom, and we measure that by what we call the impact index, where we are looking at students who've read a lot, or students who've written quite a bit, students who excel at a particular activity. You could be somebody who's great at music or sport, or who's probably created a small little venture. So we value that quite a bit. So we look at academics, we look at what students have done outside the classroom. We put a lot of value to that. We make students write an essay when they come in, and essay not to judge how they write English, but pretty much how they
and spontaneous, not pre-prepared.
Spontaneous essay, and then we interview. An interview not again to judge how a person speaks, but whether the person really wants to learn, how humble the person is, some of those skills.
So Ashok, would you have an issue with any of that? Because again, would you see that there's subjectivity in that as opposed to a cutoff?
The whole problem is that this education has become business. That is also a problem. If you have a lot of money, you will have a preference. I may tell you now there is no difference whether you are going to school or you are not going to school. If you are not going to school, even you can have a better certificate of marks from the institution than those going to school. This is the state of affairs. In fact, we have gone from bad to worst.
The fact that Ashoka may be able to do it, symbiosis may be able to do it, okay, we're going to use other criteria. But at the more mass level, when it comes to the IITs, for example, when it comes to Delhi University, where so many people are applying, can those same criteria be followed, or does it have to be just, okay, here's a number?
No, it can be, provided you decentralize your system rather than over-centralizing it. Let every college be responsible for working out their criteria, which can be approved by the academic council or whatever. Everything need not be objective. When we say this is subjective, underlying is that you're going to be corrupt about it. You will be biased. No, why would you do that? If I have to sink or swim by the reputation I make for my institution, I would like to get the best all-round candidate that I can. So if you decentralize it, then you don't have the masses. After all, how many admissions are you going to do per college? Let them work out their criteria, let them do it, and then if their students don't do well, they'll have to rethink on their own. This is very mechanical. You don't need teachers to do it. You can just put it into a computer and out it will come. And that's the end of the matter.
Okay, so Mohandas Pai now joining us, Chairman, Manipal Global Education Services. A strong sense that I'm getting from this panel is that we should be looking for ways of changing the system completely so that it's not just that cut-off number, but a different set of criteria. And we just got the suggestion from Dr. Sharma, if you decentralize it enough, it doesn't necessarily mean a corrupt system. You could actually have a much better quality of people ending up going to college.
We have 260 million children in school. All right? 20 million children possibly all over the country will pass out, will attend standard 10, and maybe about 15 million will go to standard 11 and 12. Maybe 12 million every year will pass standard 12, and 10 million, there's 1 crore will join college. So we need 1 crore seats in college. It's the second largest system in the world and will get larger over a period of time, and more people pass class 12. We just do not have enough good institutions in this country because our thinking is antiquated. We don't want large institutions. We want to control quality by squeezing supply like the IITs do, the IIMs do for many periods, and we spoil the future of our children. So like the doctor said, we need a decentralized system which fosters excellence in having a large number of good institutions with large capacity. You can't have a college with only 100 seats in BCom. You need a college with 500 seats.
So allow more supply to come up, don't control it, and let people compete to turn out the best students. So, you sounded as you looked as if you were disagreeing with what Mohandas Pai was saying.
My point to Mohandas is very simple. While in theory, increasing supply and therefore reducing the pressures of demand works in a hypothetical consumer market situation, it doesn't work in education for 3 reasons. Number one, where will you control the quality? How will you control the quality? Most institutions, including the IITs and the IIMs, are paying peanuts to their faculty. Okay, when you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. Number two, most of these institutions, other than the venerable ones, including Manipal, which is above board, there are a lot of institutions which are actually using education for racketeering purposes. Okay? Number three, there is segregation at the school level, at primary education level, so that those guys then become toppers. I mean, when you're segregating at a primary level students based on their marks, what on earth are you going to do?
All right.
And my simple point is, why are we not creating Steve Jobs and Bill Gateses out of India? Where's the innovation? Where's aptitude? It's all about degrees.
I'll answer why.
Okay, Mohandas Pai, please respond to that, then let me come to the others. Mohandas Pai.
Vikram, we have to accept the existing system has failed. The existing system has failed, it's rotten. And why is it rotten? Because we constrain supply. Open up the system. Let there be 100 institutions. Over a period of 10 years, they'll all become good quality because parents will choose. Now, poor parents have no choice because government funds institutions, not the students, gives scholarship to students, ask them to go. It'll take 10 years, 15 years. New teachers will come. There's enough people in this country. There's enough bright people. It takes time to change. For 67 years, we have spoiled the system by constraining supply with too much of centralization, too much of control from the government, leading crooks to come up. We are in a country where good people are suppressed, good people are oppressed, good people cannot do anything. Government takes bribes for every small thing. We are ruining the system because why? Good people don't get support. Why do you stop good people from expanding? For a period of time, good people expand, the system changes. It'll take time, but that's the only solution.
Well, Vikram, what we are hearing here is that you find majority of the institutions today in India, they have been controlled, or they have the owners are politicians by and large. Engineering schools, medical schools, they're all owned by politicians. So primarily it was a big business. They made money elsewhere and they needed a legitimate way to get out, and they knew there was shortage of it, and this was another easy cash cow for them to squeeze.
So do you agree with Mohandas Pai?
Absolutely, I do agree with it.
Allow them to come in.
One,
open it up.
Open it up. Number two.
But then how will you keep control of quality?
Wait, coming to that. See, you've got to have certain basic norms. That is one. Number two, beyond basic norms, people like Ashoka or some other, there is now a competition. People have choice. He gives a better quality of education. People come in. This is not McDonald's. There are 55,000 McDonald's. Harvard University has not been able to open a second one. Why? Where's the faculty? You can open 50 IIMs and 50 IITs.
The point
Where's the faculty?
There are certain colleges, certain universities that get students in. They pay a lot of money. Once they've got that degree, they suddenly find it's worthless because it wasn't
Can I answer
affiliated.
that?
So all of those issues can potentially also come
I
in, which
answer
we
that?
have to watch
Vikram,
for.
even if they are affiliated, the point is NASSCOM did a study, 90% of people
Can I
coming
answer,
out,
Vikram?
even from affiliated ones, they're not employable.
Yeah, that's a broader, that's another issue which I want to come to. So just the increasing supply. Vidyaji, what do you think about that?
Can I speak about, see, I agree with what Mohandas Pai was saying. You know, you have to open up. The government has to decentralize. There's so much over-regulation. Listen, you,
Except that
you know,
they normally don't
getting
want to come
people
for
to teach in a
discussion.
university or a college, getting a person to teach in a university or a college has to be a net qualified and a PhD. How many PhDs can really deliver in a class? If I have to get a good person from the industry, I'm not allowed, because when a UGC or a NAC comes to assess my university, they say this guy is not PhD, so he's not fit to teach. Whereas my MBA students would rather have a person from the industry to teach them than have a PhD who cannot simply deliver because he's less smarter than the
Too
students.
many rules, too many
so This
regulations?
is the problem with our system.
Professor
I
Rajput?
will make
Absolutely.
two points.
Absolutely.
Number
Vikram?
one, privatization is not the solution
Vikram?
because it excludes a large number of population, and that cannot be acceptable. It is inevitable, necessary, but not
Vikram,
the
I'll
only
answer that.
solution. So that has to be checked. Number two, you know, unless until the state institutions create a credibility for themselves, regain the credibility. I would exemplify by saying in Bihar, if the universities have a credibility, there would not be that much of rush on Delhi University.